strange, feeling about cities, empty cities. It gives you that apocalyptic feel, that one day all things, will pass. When I was a kid, a river is a paradise. Yeah. The village where I grew up is near a river, so you just walk, 5 to 10 minutes. There's the river already. So we used to go there noontime after school. There's a break at noon. Instead of going home to eat, we go to the river and swim and go back to school with empty stomachs. So yeah, I was a good swimmer then because we used to swim a lot when I was a kid. It was paradise, the river. And it's also a source of so many things that I saw when I was. It's a source. The river is a source of so many things. Yeah, like if you've seen From What Is Before, have you seen it? Those things I saw in that river, the dead floating with the fire. I used to walk alone beside the river, or even with my cousins. Just traversing it. And we discovered so many things beside the river. The tribes are living there. The Filipino Muslims are living there. They have these traditions that we saw. Things that we saw. It stayed with my mind. Yeah, in my mind. So it's some kind of a source. River is a source. Yeah. I was asking for rain, really, during the shoot, because we shot the film in Malaysia. But then there was little rain. It's summer. It's almost summer. We shot the film around February in Malaysia. So it was so hot and humid, and there's water, but there's just the stream, no? Yeah, you see the owl screaming, when he was, she was in the river, right? There's the water, yeah. You hit the word, it's about suffocation, Fascism has that kind of demeanor. It suffocates you, it holds you, it tramples on you, It's very oppressive, So it has that kind of demeanor, yeah, with the film. Even with our use of the lens. The lens is, I think, we use just one lens, the super wide angle 9.8 or 10 millimeter. So we shot it super wide, and then we cut it 4x3. And you see the look of the film. It's this very suffocating as well. And it's just one frame, one shot. So yeah, it has that kind of demeanor. More on the fascism thing, the attribute of fascism, yeah, where it's really oppressive, yeah. La 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 la. It's very visceral. It's very internal. The problem, which is very much what's happening in the Philippines during that epoch and until now. The kind of internal ailment, internal malady, where that it's there. There's this big sickness that you're having, but somehow you don't know how to cure it. Yeah, you want it to go away, but it keeps coming like cancer. So that kind of dread, that kind of feeling in the film. Yeah. Also the issue of surveillance, that somebody's watching you, somebody's coming to you, somebody's looking at you always. Every movement, everything that you say is being surveilled, being followed, being watched. There is this omnipresence of some evil, of something that's dreadful. and you cannot do anything about it until you act. Until you act. Yeah, but how can you act when there's a lack of engagement from the people because they're, helpless. Nobody's helping them. Yeah. It's a critique of that, revolutions or even upheavals. It should come from the middle class, the intellectuals, cultural workers. Without them, there's no real engagement, without, the artists, without the intelligentsia, or the middle class. You cannot, expect the proletarian, the peasant to fight. They don't know how, the only thing that they know is, survival, It's all about killing or going away. That's their survival. It's an instinct. They don't have real good rational or perspective of what's happening. There's just that fear. There is this all these myths working around them, and they couldn't understand it. Somebody has to explain it to them. Somebody has to articulate it to them that this is the reason why the situation is like this. And there's the role of the intellectual. There's the role of the artist. There's the role of the cultural worker. There's the role of the revolutionary. You must act. You must engage. And there's a lack of that. There's a lack of that in some situations. In a lot of situations, there's the failure of, the middle class, the academia, the intelligentsia, the cultural people. And that's why we have Trump, we have Duterte, because there's a big cultural debacle all over the world. There's a lack of engagement from us.
But
I think we should address that, especially now. We should address that. How can we reach, or the issue of educating the masses is very important now for the world to be able to survive. Yeah, we should reach them. That's what the wise man was doing in the film. We call him the Paham. In Malay or in Filipino, Paham means the wise man. He's the one who's doing the issue of articulating, of educating the masses that the problem is we have fascism around us. We need to fight all this, cult of personality that's happening. All the myths that they are doing around us must be, engage head on. But he's an old man. That's why the coming of the poet is some kind of, a bit of a hope for the old man to, to push the issue again when the poet came to the barrio. And then, there's the question. He posed the question to the poet. Where are you, son of the nation? When are you going to wake up? When are you going to act? When are you going to be free during your time? You have to fight. You have to educate the masses. Yeah, I think that's the only solution. Before you push the great mass to some action, you have to educate them. They have to know what they are fighting for. They have to know what's the root of the problem. There has some kind of, you call it maybe just, an understanding, an awareness of what they are fighting for, or what they should fight for, or what they're gonna be eradicating, or what's the target of the upheaval. So there's the devil, there's the militia, there's fascism. We have to fight it. There's the cult of personality. There's myth. We have to fight all these things. Yeah, but educating the masses, it's not easy. You have, it's some kind of, we have to sit down and talk, and we have to dissect this very issue. We have to, talk about it
and overcome the
You don't just give them guns and then it's gonna be crazy. Fighting is more of an internal thing. They have to understand that it's some kind of an ideology. We are fighting for something. Freedom is not abstract if we know what's the problem. Liberation is not abstract if you know what's the root of the problem. It should be very clear. Yeah.
Hangin ay may lason, bayay hinahamon, kailan kalalaban sa iyong panahon?
Bigkas mong layon, himig ng kahapon, kailan ka lalaban sa iyong panahon?
Music, you start with the sound, the issue of sound. Music is, definitely, it comes from within, it's the language of the soul, Before words, we have music. Before words, we have hymns. We hum. Language came only because there are roots of languages. Like if you're living near the river, your initial language would be the sound of the river. There are roots, that sound. So definitely, a lot of words came from that sound when the people are still evolving. So, yeah, it's the use of singing and chanting in the film, has that power. Although at some point, I use also the attribute of fascism, which is repetition. That again is a characteristic of conditioning. Fascism has that very very imposing characteristic, which is conditioning, and there's a lot of repetition. There's a bombardment, to be able to to lull the soul or to numb your perspective. But with this film, of course, it's using the genre, using the genre. Because I was writing a lot of songs, it started that way. Oh, I want maybe it can work as a musical.
Nasaan na ang anak ng bayan? Gumising ka, o anak ng bayan.
You go back to the film of Bergman, Cries and Whispers. Yeah, the very, very conundrum of the characters is there's a lack of communication. There's a lack of the Socratic way, which is dialogue. So again, words are very important for the mass. If you educate them towards something like liberation or emancipating them, you have to communicate. You have to be Socratic. Socratic way means it has to have a dialogue to be able to connect with them. The medium is dialogue. The medium is the words. The medium is communication. That's how you educate them. And music is a medium. It's a form of dialogue.
In your film, you have only arias. In a sense.
It's all areas.
That was interesting because the aria is very comfortable. It's very nice to hear. It's very, but at the same time, it's uncomfortable because you are in a constant emotional stress.
Yeah, because aria is very emotional. You release the pain. It's structured that way. I just wrote the songs for certain characters. I wrote them, basically as rock songs, and also there's the Filipino music form called kundiman. It's a ballad, and also there's the passion. If you're familiar with passion, we call it passion when during the Holy Week, Filipinos would read the suffering of Christ. So we have 1 week of that. People, if you go to the villages in the Philippines, they read the verses, the lines in the Bible, they sing it. We call it passion. So I use these forms, Kundiman is a Filipino ballad. It's like, the kundiman is a mix of Italian and Spanish ballad. It's basically a love song, but it's also very painful. It's like, the soul music of the black people where they chant in the cotton fields. And that's where the blues come from, the blues come from where they, instead of talking, they sing what they feel. In the Philippines, we have that also. There's storytelling before. Before the Spanish times, the Filipino Malays used to lament, through, they sing what they feel, Even stories are sung the whole day. If somebody dies, the whole family and friends, they will talk about, his life through singing. And it extended, when Catholicism came, it extended with the death of Christ. During the whole week, we do Passion, which is, lamenting the death of Christ. They read the Bible and they sing it. Yeah.
Darating ang araw, magigising ang masa. Hindi habang buhay sila ay tatanga-tanga. Isang araw matatanto nila ang huwad niyong retorika. Hitig sa kasaysayang kagaya ni Narsisong demagoga. Pero magbabanlaw ang bayan sa mga ganyang droga. Narito siya at kayo dahil sa mga nagpuputa.
Musical, the genre is very imposing. It's like Hugo. After the song, you should cut it because it ended already. You cannot prolong it the way I used to do the film because it's gonna be, there's this big silence. So once the song ends, you have to cut it. It's very limiting and imposing at the same time for me. I realized that when I was cutting it, the song ended, I have to cut it. You're forced to cut it. Even if you don't want it, you still want them to move because after the song, I still have those, organic way of doing it during the shoot. But during the editing, I was forced to cut it because it's being imposed by the form itself. It's being imposed by the genre, if I may call it that way. The musical will tell you that, the song ended, cut it. It's dictating you to do it. And it's very true. I said, oh my God, I have to cut it. I don't, even me, I don't want to watch it like after singing, and then they will just be sitting and looking at each other. You have to, otherwise you have to continue the singing, add more lyrics for them to be engaged more. But then, if the song ends, naturally you have to cut it. That's the imposition of the genre.
Mawawala ang sakit, mawawala ang galit, mawawala ang pait, mawawala ang bait.
I made the film because of the urgency of it. We were supposed to do a gangster film, and I asked the producer, can we do a musical instead? Because this is very urgent, it's about what's happening now. But I'm using that epoch, the martial law epoch, to mirror what's happening now. For me as a filmmaker, it's a responsibility to work on this, to be engaged with what's happening now. I cannot just do art for art's sake or something that I love to do. I used to do them. I have to commit my cinema to that, to at least helping humanity understand what's happening now. And the most pressing problem now is that the coming of all these authoritarian regimes, despots are coming, demagogues are coming, and we allow them. So what's the problem? The problem is ignorance, ignorance. Most of the people now, they don't understand what's happening in their places, in their countries. They're lulled by, more visceral things. With what's, they only want the basic things. They don't want to understand. That's the problem. So we have a role. I think cinema has still a role. That's why I did this film. At least if I can educate some people, if they can have a little understanding of what's happening. Why do we have to fight fascism? Why do we have to fight this demagoguery or despotism? Then we can at least help to work, on trying to dissect the truth. For me, is very important. That's the most positive thing, to work on the truth. Like, Season of the Devil. Yeah, it's a critique of a very, very, pressing problem within this epoch, but it mirrors what's happening now. It's very much about that, you know. Like, if you focus on the character of Hugo Haniwa in the film, towards the end, his battle is just about the truth. Yeah, he wants to know the truth, you know, and he can, you know, go away once he knows the truth. So it's all about the truth, you know. For me, the most positive thing in this, you know, engagement called life is about, you know, fighting for the truth. You know.
At nilalaro nyo pa ang kaawa-awang masa. La 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 la.
Educate the masses, but probably also educate the educators. So I mean,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
another task of the
That's
intellectual
very
is also
true,
to
yeah.
teach,
Yeah.
to be a good teacher.
That's true. That's also the problem imposed or issued by the film. It's a critique of the way we teach. We read a lot, but we're not engaged enough. We're not Socratic enough. Socrates went to the streets. He lived in the streets and talked to people. That's the way. You have to go to the agora. You have to go to the plaza and talk. Don't stay in the campus. Don't stay in the classroom. That's the real engagement now. Go out. Go out of the fucking institution. Go out, you know, reach the people. That's the proper education now.
Of course, a very problem now is also that you don't know where is the agora.
That's why you have to create it. You have to find it. You know, the educator must find the agora. The educator must find the payacha, where he can engage people. Start engaging with people. Talk. You know, start doing something outside. More. What do you call that? More dynamic. It's more connected. You know, not the wall of the campus, the wall of the educational systems, the wall of the museums. It has to be tactile. It has to be tactile. You should touch them. Yeah, dialogue must be that. I think, you know, the greatest example really is Socrates. You know, Socrates is the greatest example of that. Even Christ, you know, Buddha. They went out. Buddha went out of the palace, and he realized that, oh, people are dying of sickness. People are, you know, dying of hunger. He realized that it's not paradise. So he started teaching. The same with Socrates, all the teachers, the great teachers. You should go out, you know, find the agora, yeah. I think that's engagement now. We should get out of our institutions and walk, you know. If we want to save this world, at least, we have to do that, you know. That's the new revolution, go out, you know. It's an old way, but we forgot about it. We're just so comfortable with our, you know, four walls of education. We thought that, you think that you're the greatest intellectual because, you know, you're reading a lot of books, teaching. That's nothing now. You're in front of a monitor and you think you're engaging. Yeah, there's engagement there, but it lacks tactility. It lacks the so-called, you know, you have to reach them. You know, we have to be engaged. You know, you just what you said. We have to look at each other, touch each other. Yeah, that's the danger of engagement in the agora. You know, maybe it will kill you, like Socrates. They force him to drink poison. It will happen that way, but it's the only way now. Yeah, the only way. Or it's the better way. Yeah, could be the better way.
That seems, of course, probably paradoxical for a filmmaker because your medium is a screen, is a box. In a sense.
That's why we have. How can we reach them through cinema? So it's our conundrum. It's our problem as well. It's our problem. How to reach them? How do you propagate the perspective of your cinema if it's just seen by a few people? It's a big problem. Yeah. We have to address that as well. For me, it's you have to show them everywhere and then engage with people. Talk about the film, how it relates to their situation, how it affects them.
Umising ka, o anak ng bayan,
Nasaan na ang anak ng bayan? Gumising ka, o anak ng bayan. Naglagas ng dahon, umahampas ang alon. Kailan ka yayabang sa ating panahon?
I don't know. Well, I'm just a simple filmmaker. I'm just, just the same. I'm a very conflicted guy, The only way that I can help, at least, is my cinema. So it's a commitment for me to, at least struggle to do, responsible cinema. If there is that thing, some kind of a cinema that speaks directly or that engages us, the question of who are you, who am I, you go back again to the question of existence. What am I doing here? What are we doing here? Yeah, it's the gamut of all this, very, 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 abstract questions will come, and you will find nothing. There's no answer really, except for that, just enjoy coffee, and coffee is good. That's a better engagement,